All right, Avery. We are a week and a bit post TI. Well, longer than that at this point in time. But it's time to talk about what the next season is going to look like. What is the next season going to look like, Avery? Is it going to be?
Garbage.
It's going to be bright, full of sunshine, fluffy
That's right.
clouds,
Bright garbage.
bright neon garbage.
I mean, Europe won another TI. It's fucking over. It's Jover. Get your fish out. Another year of European overlords killing every other region.
Europe has, if you include Eastern Europe, Europe has won every single TI since 6 Wings.
Yep. Chinese curse. Cursed it for all of us.
Ace really did a number on the Dota 2 competitive scene. So it does look like this year's post-TI shuffle is going to be a lot more interesting than previous years. Why do you think that is, first of all?
No DPC roster locking.
Okay.
And there's more mobility because a lot of the top teams have been together now for like that 2 to 2.5 year period, which I think is most of the length of a modern Dota team. Like modern Dota team is not really going to last more than 3 years with all 5 players. So you kind of reach that limit on a lot of these rosters, like the Bet Boom group, the Gaming group, the Liquid group. Tundra is just always changing. Who even knows with that one?
Yeah.
I think Falcons is in there. Like they just finished year 1 of their 3 years, so they didn't change. And I mean, China's just perma shuffling forever. I don't think that's ever going to stop. And C is perma shuffling forever. And South America is getting pillaged and North America is dead. So, yeah, I mean, compared to the old days, you should have more roster shuffling, assuming you're in a year where a lot of those like 2.5 or 3 year periods are ending.
All right. So is there any roster? We'll start with there are a lot of rosters to talk about that have already been announced. There are a few more that are still some question marks around them. What is your favorite roster that you have seen so far?
That I've seen? That I
Yes.
know about?
Yes, that has been confirmed, I guess.
Favorite as in the one I think will do the best, or my personal favorite?
Whatever, man. Whatever criteria you want to use for this.
I mean, that Tundra roster's some wild shit, bro. Let's be honest. Like, I'm not bringing that up because we're on their channel, but like, that is some wild ass shit. Looking at that roster, I guess it's 33 assembling his squad of Avengers or whatever people want to call it. But
Yeah.
like, I've heard people talk about 33 really liked that Bet Boom team.
Yeah. He is
he's
apparently friends with those guys and is
very
of
close.
that team.
So he pulled Saika over and is like, all right, bro, it's time to show the world what you're made of. But like, dude, on paper, let's say you ignore all that. You just look on paper, how these players going to fit together, their play styles, what they've done in the last few years. That team is wild, dude. Like, I do not understand I don't understand the purpose. What is the purpose of this team?
The roster, for those of you guys who don't know, the roster is from 1 to 5. We'll do that every single time. Nightfall, Lorinov, 33, Soxa, Whitemon. Which initially, I look at that support duo, especially with the way that Whitemon looked really good at this last TI, and be like, damn, that's a strong support duo right there. And then you've got 33, 2-time TI winner at this point in time. All right, that seems pretty good. That's a good base. So I feel like your question marks are more to do with the 1 and 2 position then.
Well, yeah, of course. I think those 3 are going to give you a good team no matter what.
Okay.
I think your 3 through 5 are always the foundation of a team anyway. Like, they're the ones who are going to raise the floor, where your 1 and 2 can raise the ceiling more often than not.
Okay.
Obviously, there's variability in that. I think that floor is insanely high. It might be the highest in the world. I actually, at this point, might say that. I think between those 3, like, you have insane flexibility, insane ability to itemize in a lot of different directions, use utility really well. support the 1 and 2 super well. 33 will also play win conditions. Soxa can just win you a game with a random performance. Like Whitemon was popping off mechanically at that TI.
Yep.
Maybe the one thing you lack is a little like captain ability from the support duo, but I mean 33 just won freaking TI as a captain and drafter. So like, and Soxa was kind of a lead shot caller and captain figure on that old Tundra squad. So like even
Yeah.
that I don't, whatever, who gives a shit. Yeah, I think that is current. I would currently rate that as my strongest 3, 4, and 5 combination in Dota right now on paper. Will it pan out? Who knows? But like all of those players played really well at TI. They were all effectively top 3. It's like they're good, right? They're going to be
Yeah.
good no matter who their 1 and 2 is. But it is a very interesting 1 and 2 because Lornoff Saika's like, I don't know how you arrived at that. Maybe my thought process is not that there's anything wrong with those players, but he might just want guys with very high potential because he feels like he's going to be able to unlock it again with a really strong base and like high floor. They're going to have time and the ability to work out that potential. I can kind of see that. I mean, we've seen the ceiling be very high for Lornov and Saika individually, but obviously they've had a lot of hits and misses within the team environment. So will they play well together? I don't know. They both seem a little greedy and a little passive to me.
So, Saika slash Nightfall has, obviously he's been heralded as being an incredibly good player. He was one of the reasons that Bet Boom squad was always looked at as the potential for being champions, but never actually realized that. So I feel like he is established and he has that relationship with 33 apparently. So, okay, yeah, naturally he slides in to this roster. But Lornoff was a bit more of a question mark to me just because he has not reached, I would say, the same heights as I would say everybody else on the team has, right?
No, probably not. Not history wise. I also just don't. I don't know if he's the kind of mid you want. Like, is he? I feel like Nightfall and 33 are generally farm heavy players, and they've
Yeah.
historically done well with playmaking mids or space creating mids. Um, on Liquid, I think Mickey kind of filled that role a bit, right? Like he was a huge playmaker for that team compared to Nisha Mid, who's a little more farm heavy, but they're both kind of in that hybrid slot.
Yep.
Lornoff, at least on that Aurora squad he's played on the last year, he's just a ricer, dude. The guy just farms and farms, and in like 60 minutes you win. Is that an Aurora play style thing, forcing him to play that way? Maybe, but I also think of Nightfall like that. Like Nightfall is an extremely passive carry, one of the lowest KDA involved carry players in the entire world. Is that going to drastically change? If those two things don't change, then in theory you have a very slow, very greedy 1 and 2, which maybe 33 likes to play that way. That's what he's trying to do. Just like a very controlled style of obnoxiousness. But generally, the guy plays Zoo, he plays Push, he plays Auras. That's what's won him 2 TIs. That's not a slow style. You need your cores to combine with you to use those strengths. On paper, it doesn't make a lot of logical sense to me, but obviously they know way more than we do. And if they want to play with each other, they'll find a way to make it work. And who knows where the bounce patches will end up. Could become a slower style of Dota anyway. Get rid of all this aura nonsense that's been going around for a couple of years now. Could be betting a little bit on that, right? Maybe it's just too next level for everybody else. Like, yeah, you guys go get your aura players, get your fucking fast paced whatevers. Seb's gonna go back to offlane, whatever. That's nice. But I know that he's gonna get rid of all this shit in like 3 months because I just won 2 out of the last 3 TIs on it. So I'm playing the long game. I'm already gearing up for the next. I'm playing Dota 3 right now, bro. I'm gearing up for Dota 3.
I mean, considering the fact that this last year's patch was a big patch where we had some pretty hefty changes, I'm not anticipating another big patch coming in from Dota. Maybe we'll see some map changes, but I'm not anticipating anything like too large. So I definitely wouldn't bet on big meta changes. But there's also something to be said for the slower teams of this last year were and the most successful, right, were Spirit and Extreme. They were the slower versions of, and yet still top tier of, the Gaming Gladiators and Liquids. And they typically had, particularly Spirit, had a much more of a 4 protect 1, which I feel like this Tundra roster is just greed for greed. It's not necessarily slow. I mean, it's going to be slow because it is so greedy, I assume, but it just feels like it is an overwhelming amount of greed, right? Not like some for protect one sort of deal. They don't, as you said, they don't really have the most playmaking mid. 33 is played faster at this TI for sure, but like if he's building his team and his vision, I have to imagine he's going to play to his strengths, which is not necessarily playing fast, which is what he did this TI, and he did it very well. But I think it is more to his nature to be a bit more farmy. So yeah, there's definitely some question marks about this. Speaking of Team Spirit, we have the new Team Spirit roster that is going around right now. What do you think about that? Because obviously it was a big blow to lose Yatoro and lose Mira. Obviously there seems to have been some sort of fallout from Spirit that they felt like Mira wasn't good enough. He said in his own thing that he's not going to come back into the competitive until he feels like he's playing Dota again. What's your take on Mira's performance in the last year, I guess?
I don't know. I don't feel like that team has players that stand out good or bad. They either all collectively look great or they don't. Like
Okay.
the guy's a 2-time TI winner. Like how bad can he be? I don't know. You can't just become shit in a year, Maybe it's like my current level of play is suffering because X and X problems. Sure. I mean, you can always play below your level, but there's no way the guy's just like it's just straight trash. Like, all right, brother, your prime is gone. It's not like basketball or something like you get an Achilles injury. And it's just like, all right, you're fucking done, dude. You're never coming back. Like it happens.
Sorry, but you hit 24. It's all over. He's gonna be 25 soon, so it's all over.
Give me a break, bro. Like he could literally go train for 3 years and still have like a 3-year career ahead of him by most of the standards. So I don't really buy that. I think it's just a lot of those guys were out of form. I think they were probably burnt out, super burnt out. Because I mean, winning TIs makes you're very stressed. You play a lot, and there's a lot of pressure on you. You're a top tier team. There's more pressure on you every LAN. You're expected to do well. That takes a toll. I think those guys were clearly just burnt out. And there's only so many ideas you can throw around within the same pool of players too before people just start getting frustrated with each other. Things aren't working. You don't know why. It's really hard to figure it out because you're in this bubble. I think that was a majority of the problem with that team, not any like, oh, this player is underperforming or whatever.
Yeah.
They obviously like it's really hard to replace synergy. It's really hard. It's rare. So giving that up costs you a lot, even if you get better players. Will the new roster do well?
So that new roster
it's
is
a wild card.
1-5 Satanic, Laurel, Collapse, Rue, and Maposhka. So Maposhka is still sticking around, even though I feel like there were some rumors about him retiring. And so the new additions being Satanic and Rue.
I mean, the team still has a lot of. I mean, Silence also taking a break, right? Which is important to note because I mean that guy's also a 2-time TI winning coach and very influential on that team. So that hurts him a little bit. I don't know. I think some fresh blood will remotivate some of those other guys. Probably help them. I think they'll still be a strong team. I think anytime you have Collapse in there, like your team's probably going to be pretty strong. It will come down to those new guys' performances, though. Like Satanic has some big shoes to fill, but also in terms of if they play the similar style, which I think they kind of have to because of how Collapse plays, then he has really big shoes to fill because a lot of those games come down to the one position for Spirit. Like, can the one position actually close the game? He's the game closer for them, not the other two cores. So he has to be able to do that, which some carries can do it, some can't. It's the same for any role, but it's very apparent on carry because, it's like you get to 40, 50 minutes, your anti-major Medusa's 5-slotted. Does he end the game or not? And if you don't, it's very apparent. It's on you and it looks bad. So, like, he'll have to step up, but I mean, he's very young. He's very promising. There's a lot of potential. He's going to get a shot at the big show.
Yeah. How much footage have you seen of Satanic? Like,
I've seen him play a bit.
Okay. Do you buy into the hype around this kid? Because people are heralding him as like, this is the next Yatoro. He's going to be the next big thing in the carry role.
Okay, so I put him in the category of like, there's these players you watch and you watch them, and you're like, damn, this guy is freaking good. like
Hmm.
mechanically and in pubs, and he just dunking on people. And I think that was how I was looking at players like, I mean, newer generation wise, ATF, Maulrine type guys, right? And
Yeah,
you look at them play, and like Maulrine, everybody knew this guy's going to be good, but did they know he would be the best player of last year potentially? And like, in that argument, I don't think so. I don't think they expected it to happen that fast. Because if you talk those Falcons guys, he was like an investment for them, right? Like he's young, he's super inexperienced, he's never even been to a LAN, but we know he's good. So if it takes a year to get him there, that's fine, right? Because we believe in it.
sure.
But maybe that's the outcome. Like by the time you get the TI, he's good to go. This guy was just dominating from like minute zero. So will that happen for Satanic when he gets pushed into a lot of these way more competitive matches on LAN? Still an unknown. You just don't know that for every player. But I put him in that category. And honestly, whereas I have doubted a lot of these modern, like 16 to 18-year-olds being actually that good, most of the time when you put them on LAN in that environment, they tend to do pretty well recently. Like all these ATF, Maulrine, Watson type big MMR pub stars that are kind of young, you put them in there, they like tend to just do pretty well, right? And maybe there's a little learning curve, like a couple lands, but it's not much. And they tend to just have fresh ideas and know more of the new stuff and be ahead of the curve. And that gives them an edge too. So even if they're a little inexperienced as a disadvantage, they have other advantages to make up for it. And there's no baggage, which is a big plus in some of these older teams, like especially a team like Spirit. Bringing in guys with no baggage is pretty damn nice. So I'm all
Sure.
for it. I think it's a good decision. Even if it doesn't work out, you still just got to make like good bets, right? And I think that's a good bet. I think it's a very fair good bet.
And it helps that it was already a player that they already had a contract on since he was on Yellow
Yeah,
Submarine, and that's
yeah.
Team Spirits. Apparently, it's their junior squad, so they just bring him up to the big leagues. Team Spirit has had mixed results. They've already played in some games recently. They played in the Dream League qualifier, which they did qualify for Dream League. However, they qualified through the lower bracket. There was 2 spots. They lost their very first series against Band of No One, who did manage to go through. We'll talk about that squad after this, but they lost that initial series, but then still went on, beat Navi, 1 win, Liga, and Virtus Pro in order to qualify. So they did kind of put it together when they needed to, and there are some strong teams there. I mean, 1 win, Virtus Pro. Those guys have definitely proven they could do something there. This Navi squad, kind of interesting stand-in of Puppy. I don't know what's going on there, but
I don't
I
think
guess
they know.
yeah, yeah. Is there any chance we're going to see Puppy not be a part of a
No,
secret? I don't
no,
think so, right?
zero, zero chance ever.
So I mean, that is his org, but obviously I think there is a bit of a problem for him and for Team Secret in the poll that they have. Right? Because it used to be that they would have pull not through the salaries that they could offer, but by playing with Puppy. By playing with Puppy, you will get strong placements throughout the year. You will get a high placement at TI, and
Yeah, it's gone.
that's gone now, right? So now you can no longer make that kind of almost what it felt like a guarantee. It was almost a guarantee to be on a Puppy team. You would go to TI, right? It was a guarantee for 11 years. And then, now it's obviously clearly gone. So there is a question of like, if he wants to be tier 1 again, if they can't pull players through salary and his own reputation, then, maybe he would have to join a different org in order
And who's
to
responsible
get
for
that.
that, Austin?
I don't know
Now
who
that
is
we're on that
responsible.
topic, who's responsible for the death of Puppy and one of the greatest captains and organizations in the history of Dota 2?
I bet you're going to say Team Liquid.
That's absolutely correct, Austin. You would be 100% right if you said Team Liquid because they are responsible. So let's just put that note out there. I have no further comment. I'm just noting that down objectively.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Team Liquid did pull a healthy amount of players from Team Secret.
Yes, Team Secret, also known as Liquid Junior.
Yeah, unfortunately, don't get any benefits about that relationship from Team Liquid though. But Band of No One. This squad qualified through for Dream League. Crystalis, No One, DM, Nine Class, and Ducalis. So some players that had some very strong performances, particularly at TI. No One, Nine Class, unfortunately, didn't get to TI due to visa issues, but he seemed to have pretty good performance throughout the year. last year for Tundra. DM, I think, is still looked at as an offlaner with some pretty good potential. His performance on Cloud9, I think it was pretty decent. I don't think it was he was a detriment to the squad in any way.
No, he had a pretty good tournament until the last two matches they went out on. But no
Yeah.
one on the team really had good performances in those matches. I think. I think DM's improved a lot. I think he just still has this gap to go. I'm not sure what exactly it is. Maybe it's just finding the right team. It's not necessarily on him, but there's just something, that extra special game winning flair that's missing a little bit for me. Not easy to find in an off lane. I don't know what it is, but he's kind of built up everything else. So maybe it's just more time, but that guy is very solid now. Like, he will give you solid performances, extremely consistent. He's built up his hero pool. He's a chill dude, easy to work with. So there's still a huge amount of value there for that team. And of course, this team's going to continue to build off the last year they had, which was pretty solid. I think they're all motivated. It's a good squad, like not a squad you should sleep on. Are they a championship team? I don't feel it right now. The vibe I get and the sense of where they're at and like the threats they're bringing to the table does not hit me as a championship team right now.
Do you feel like they've upgraded or downgraded or stayed the same since last year with the additions of Chrysalis and Collis?
I think it's an upgrade in the sense that they could become better. I think it's not going to be an upgrade at first, but I think the potential's higher actually. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting because they're swapping out Watson for Chrysalis. Now Watson, highest MMR player, yada yada yada, but he's been number one on the leaderboard for so long in Europe. Chrysalis has obviously proven himself more on lands, though the community sentiment about him is incredibly low. And I guess I wondered what your opinion on Chrysalis was.
I think he is in that category of aggressive hero pools, limited carry players, which tend to get a bad rep. They're like the Durachios of the world. Like, they just get shit on because when you're not winning, it looks really fucking bad. But I can tell you something, these guys are really valuable if you can build around them and get a style going. They enable a lot of the rest of your team, and they're really good in the modern age of Dota, which tends to be fast paced, and you rather have the more active than the more passive carry. I think Crystallis fits that to a T, but he needs the team to be clicking for that to work and look good, right? Like, you can't be gating around as a Monkey King or TPing with Furion or running around with Razor off a good laning phase and have your other two cores farming Ancients. Like, you're going to just die, you're going to feed, you're going to look like a dumbass, and people are going to go, throwing. But it's like not on him. The team needs to play like that. I think that squad, that Cloud9 squad, can be super fast paced. I think that's how they wanted to play anyway. That's how they were drafting and playing. Like, DM can play these summons. No one can play these Earth Spirit, Void Spirit, Storms, whatever, Leshraks, right? They loves to play and run around. And I think 9 class on average is a way faster player than Katayomi. Katayomi, I think, was the slowest player on that squad. He was the greediest 4 at TI. He farmed the most gold per minute on any 4. Like, this guy was just playing Tinkers and Wyverns and slowing the game down, right? And it maybe gives you some late game security, but in the end, I think it's irrelevant because you're kind of just like go anyway. So if you're going to play Lycan Leshrac and then you have like a farming Wyvern, what the fuck is it doing for you? It's just an awkward piece. So now they have 5 guys I think are just going to go.
And because Crystal's hero pool traditionally has been, Razors, Monkey Kings, like those kind of heroes that are pretty fast. Man.
I think
it really looks like they are an Eastern European liquid.
Yeah, they're fast. This is going to be a fast team. Hopefully, I hope that's what they do. And I think
they've proved it so far.
Well.
The qualifiers, their final game against Virtus Pro to qualify, it was an 18-minute win.
There you go. Right, that's like what you want to see because you're not every game is going to be 18 minutes, but like that means that's what you're trying to do, which I like. And maybe things go wrong, you only win in 30. Boo hoo, right? I think that support duo is a lot faster than the old one. I think Crystallis fits that aggressive carry a little more than Watson, though Watson can do it. But I think that's really where Crystallis shines. Yeah, I think it's just a better fit. I wouldn't say it's a better team. I just think it's a better fit in terms of they're going to play that way.
And I gotta bring this one. Ramses was quoted recently as saying, even if I was paid money every day, I would not agree to play with Crystallis. What do you think about that quote?
It's a good quote. I mean,
It's a good quote.
honestly, there's a lot of people I wouldn't work with if you paid me. Like, I mean, you're one of them. That's why I got to
Yeah.
get paid a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I mean, Crystallis is not that bad. Like, it's just these. I'm telling you, these aggressive carries just get such a bad rep. I know
Yeah.
exactly why. It's just like I feel like you could literally replace that quote with like Mickey from a year and a half ago. Like I bet you Ramses has fucking said that in a pub.
Sure.
Like if you go through the pub log of shit he said in a pub playing with Mickey, it's probably in there. He's like, you couldn't pay me to play with your dumb fucking carry ass, throw like Mickey Mouse, all the memes, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now the guy's a TI winner. Now he's probably like, well, he was always pretty good, right? It's like that's how these guys are always gonna be. You know, it's like people said this about Crystallis. He got second at TI. What if he won that TI? Would they still be saying that? Or would they say the fit's just bad?
Keeping along the line of Eastern Europe.
Also, just to finish that, it's Ramses. Like, come on. This guy has probably said that about 2/3 of the scene. He's probably said that about dudes he's fucking playing with right now. Like, the guy's just said it about everybody. Such a meaningless quote. It's like water's wet. Ramses has flamed me. So what, dude? Like, so what, The Ramses Quinn beef, like all the Ramses EG beef. Like, this guy just has beef with everybody, man. That's just how he is.
Continuing on Eastern Europe, we got.
I got no problem with it. Just for record, I got no problem. I'm just noting it. I ain't complaining. I got no problem.
So he doesn't have beef with you, or he didn't.
He probably does. I don't know. He probably thinks I'm fucking trash or something because he played a pub with me like 6 years ago. I don't fucking know. Every time I see him at LAN, he smiles and waves. I'm like, yeah, that's nice. I've talked to him a few times, but like, oh, he probably doesn't give a fuck about casters. He probably thinks we're all fucking trash because we're useless anyway. So,
well, he probably hates you after this episode. So, Bet Boom.
I'm not even flaming him.
Bet Boom. We got top to bottom, Pure, Kiyotaka, Miro, Save, and Kataomi. So the Bet Boom roster that I think we've talked about enough times of just like this needs to break apart and just like become something new. Let's not keep the 4 core identity here and like swap out one person. This needs to truly break apart and create something new because obviously it's just not working. Will this one work? The addition of Kiyotaka and Kataomi, and they're keeping Miro. So, like he was a new addition from last year. I feel like that's fair enough, especially since Miro and Save, you have repeatedly said Miro looked pretty good. So,
yeah. So basically, they kicked everybody but Miro and Save.
Yeah, and they brought on,
which is what I said someone was going to poach Miro and Save. So it's basically like Bet Boom just poached Miro and Save from their own team. That's basically what happened. I'm very unsurprised. Will this team do well? No.
Why? They've got Miro Save, which you love.
Nope.
And they've got Pure, who's a fantastic carry player.
He's great, man.
Absolutely
He's great.
killed it.
Still no.
So you hate Kiyotaka and Kataomi? Is that it?
I didn't say that.
You just hate those
said
guys?
That, motherfucker. I didn't say that. You asked me, is this team going to do well? And I said no.
Why?
In fact, I will make a bold prediction, Austin.
Oh, no.
I believe this team will kick somebody within 6 months. That is my prediction. You can hold me to it 6 months from now. What's the date today? It's the 1st of October. Very easy to track.
1st of October.
Yeah.
Yep.
So give me, I don't know, what,
April
6 months.
April 1st.
Yeah.
April Fools.
I mean, that's not technically 180 days. So if it really comes with, give me a 6-day grace period or whatever. But like,
okay, sure.
6 months from now, they're going to kick at least one player.
Why?
What do you mean why?
Why isn't this squad going to do well, in your opinion?
I don't believe in Kataomi 5.
Okay.
This guy is way too greedy to play 5. And
okay, that's fair. And Kiyotaka.
I mean, Tinker got nerfed, so like, what's this guy gonna play, dude? He's got no hero pool. That's it. I don't know. I just don't believe in this team, dude. I just don't fucking see it. I don't see how the players combine. I feel like Pure is a huge dominating force within any squad. Him and Save are gonna have to do some fucking mega work. That's all I know. Like, that's how I see it.
I mean, surely Miro was already working with Saika or Nightfall, who's pretty hard carry-ish, right? feel like Miro can work this out with Pure.
I'm not worried about
There's some
Miro.
balance there.
I'm not worried about Miro or Save in this squad. I'm not even really about Pure. It's the other two.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
6 months. 6 months, man. I'm not saying they should. I'm not rooting against them, but just like 6 months, man.
All right, we'll move over to Western Europe, where we had finally announcement that TI winning squad. This is going to be twice now that the TI winning squad has lost a member. Obviously, EG was well known for the fact they kicked AUI despite winning TI. Here, 33 had already arranged that he wanted to leave Liquid going into this tournament. And then won it with them and didn't change his mind. He wants to make his own thing. That's fair enough. He may regret that, but we'll see. But Team Liquid themselves had to replace their offlaner. They picked up Saberlight, who we specifically identified as a person that you said would not make Liquid work. Economically speaking, you said he was not the right fit.
I don't know if I said that. I just said they were less likely to get him because he wasn't as big a profile player as like a Collapse or somebody. But obviously,
you said he was more of a glue, and he wasn't a force like
I did say
33. Economically speaking,
that's true. That's true. Good. Thank you for reminding me of my own points.
I got the tape in here.
Thank you. Yeah, I did say that, and that's true, and I still stand by that. I don't think it's as good a pickup for them. Obviously, those guys know better. And they've, I guess, known better than all of us because they stuck with that shit for like 7 years and it paid off. So what do I know about that team? Honestly, I think they're super hard to read. Saberlight has played with them. They did do well. They have some good synergy. I'm sure they really like him. I'm sure it's a way better fit personalities wise and just like team personnel and, you know, obviously I still think something had to be off there between 33 and the rest of them. You know, all those guys and like Blitz and all these guys have said that there's no bad beef. They're all in good terms. I believe that, but something must have not. I just don't understand. Like, how do you go into a TI?
You always believe that he was not a personality fit with Liquid.
On some level. It doesn't have to be antagonistic, right? I'm not saying like these guys are fighting or they hate each other, but it can just be like a feel or a vibe or how you see the game or something like this, right? I still believe there has to be something like that because I don't know how you go into a TI already having told your team I'm going to leave and play and do my own thing without that being the case. Like, what causes that otherwise? This guy like slept with your wife or something. It's got to be something in terms of just how you see the game.
He's really just best friends with Saika, and he just has to make that team.
Yeah, I guess.
And obviously, Liquid's not going to kick Mickey, so
sure. But like you win, I don't know, dude. Like you're telling me you get along with this team. It's the best org in the game. One of the best salaries. You win TI. All that's probably going to be upgraded. And you're just like,
I mean, 33.
I gotta play with this motherfucker over here. Like this guy who hasn't won a LAN in his life. Gotta play with it. Like I got no choice, boys. I'm sorry. Sub me out. I'm out of here. You know, like you're telling me that's the case. There's no way.
Well, we'll see whether or not he ends up being right, I guess, in some regards, because obviously Liquid versus Tundra is going to be an interesting matchup for the rest of the year. But, this is a guy who has won 2 TIs at this point in time. He has the potential to be the first to win 3 with 3 different rosters as well, which is even crazier, which would just kind of almost automatically make him the GOAT because like every other, like these other teams you could say like if you're on that team and then you win it back to back like OG or Team Spirit practically back to back, or if Thompson had done it with Tundra, people wanted to call him the GOAT, but if he does it with 3 different teams, that's crazy. So we'll see, especially with this next one being like his project, right? Something that he is building. I guess time will tell.
Be interesting. I think Liquid's still going to be a good team. Obviously, I think they'll be a top 2 to 3 team in the world on their worst day. These are guys who are coming off a really good patch, a really good build up for them, and now they just have all the confidence they're ever going to need in life. Like they're not going to doubt things anymore, right? Which was a
Yeah.
big problem for that team for a long time. They got over all the hurdles and all the monkeys on their back are gone. So like they're just going to play, and they have really good fucking players. They have one of the best fours, if not the best four in the world on certain times. They have the best mid in the world in a lot of certain patches, right? Um, that's not taking away from any of the other players. Their one weakness, I think, can be the patch dependency a little bit. Like, I think that was the biggest thing working for them this event
Yeah.
was
For
that
sure.
patch aligned on every level for them, man. Like, and
Yeah.
they knew it too. I
Yep.
mean, they just had every player with their hero pools unbannable. And to be fair, I think that's how it does work out for every TI winner. Like, you need some degree of that. But this is one of the most extreme I've seen in a long time. Like, normally, I think you look at patches for TI winners, it's like, all right, they had maybe 6 or 7 heroes, and they, it's like the old like GH IO Coddle Night Stalker, right? Like, you have 1 or 2 players collapse with his Magnus Mars, whatever, where it's like, oh, it's hard to ban this guy, and they're gonna get slain. But then the other players are kind of playing a different stuff. This was like, I can literally name you the 6 heroes that each of Liquid's players was going to play in that BO5, and they were not going to get away from that, and you couldn't ban it out any other player's hero pools. It's just like so stupid, honestly. And they were all broken, right? Like they were
Yeah.
all really, they were those 6 heroes that each of their players' hero pools consisted of were like 6 out of the top 8 of the patch for that role.
Yeah.
Just straight up.
Yeah.
So it's like, fuck, you're just screwed. So that helped them a lot. But obviously they were placing top 3 and getting second in a lot of these majors and all the other patches as well. So like they're not that patch dependent a team. I just mean in terms of the last 2 or 3 years have been pretty European focused in terms of early lane snowball, aura based, early push timings, a lot of fighting skirmishing. If the game slows down, they will still suffer the same as Game and Will, as these other fast paced teams will, and the like extreme spirit Boom style dudes are gonna be better off. They're just still in that category. So even if the team is still good, if that big change happens, which I know we've been talking about it for a long time, like, is that going to ever happen? Is it ever? I don't know. I keep thinking it will, but it never fucking does. So if they just keep to get play, if the modern age of Dota just keeps staying how it is, then they're going to be a dominant team because they're just really good and they're really fast. And Saberlight's a fast player and he's really good and he's easy to work with. So yeah, maybe Saberlight's not as good of a player as 33. I think we agree on that at the current time. It doesn't mean he can't be, but like,
Sure.
dude, 33 is in GOAT territory at this point. Like, it's not close. I also think 33 exerts a certain amount of draft pressure on you and exerts a certain amount of in-game pressure on you, which the really goated players do.
Yeah.
Like, this
I
guy
can't think
is
of like, do I have to ban Mars if I'm facing
right,
Liquid? Like, I don't really feel that way. Where I
right.
know if I'm against 33, I have to worry about Visage. I have to worry about
Yes,
Doom.
and
It's
that
like,
is those are what the best players do. They
yeah.
become threats in the draft and threats in the game, and it exerts a lot of pressure on you, and you're always thinking and worrying about them, and it's really freaking annoying. And that is what gives their teams a lot of the advantage in these clutch situations on lands. And I think
Hmm.
33 is one of the best in the history of the game at doing that. He just straight is. Like, you're constantly worrying about all his cheese picks. You're worrying about how he's playing those cheese picks better than anybody else. And it's really hard to stop him. And then in the game, it just feels like there's this timer. Like so many of those Liquid games, his Visage, his Bristle, his Doom. It's like you're on a clock. Like this guy eventually is going to win. Like it just doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Does Saberlight bring that? No, he does not. So he has to find his own way to do that. It doesn't have to be the same as 33s, but like he has to find a way to get there. And obviously, Liquid are a team and org that believe in cultivating players and building them. So I understand all that, and they can do that with him. But it has to get to that point before I'm going to sit here and be like, oh, yeah, obviously he was going to be as good a replacement. Like, it's just not. You're going to have to build that, which is totally fine, totally legit. He's a great player to do that with because he's easy to work with, works really hard, and is a great teammate. I have nothing bad to say about the guy. Big shoes to fill.
Talking about 2-time TI winners or potential 3-time TI winners, Seb is still at it. And OG
Man, don't
has
quit.
themselves
Man, don't quit.
has themselves, well, he quits for a little bit. He takes a
Man,
little
don't quit,
breather.
Austin. He's going to be at your house later doing a little offlane. You know what I mean? Like, man, don't quit. Man, just don't quit.
You got that dog in him.
Damn. God damn. I respect that, dude. I respect that. Let me tell you something. Like, I don't think it's going to end well, but I respect it, dude. That is some. Whew.
OG has a new roster. So they still have Whisper, they still have Ari, they still have Seb. Now they've picked up 23 Savage and 9. So 9 back in the mix. Obviously,
Bad,
he has
baby.
proven himself before with Tundra, but he was on break for a bit. He moved roles. Now he's back to mid after a bit of an extended break there. And
Moved
23
roles?
Savage. Huh?
What fucking role did he move to?
Didn't he move to 4 position at some point? Am I crazy about that?
Was Alice for like a month on like some stand-in team or something, right?
I mean,
That
he
wa-
still
that wasn't
did it,
real.
right?
That wasn't real, man.
Yeah. He brought in Thompson for TI. 9 was
Oh yeah,
moved over to
that failed.
4.
So we're not gonna count that.
Anyway, he's back, and 23 Savage is being pulled to Western Europe and going to be playing. I mean, I feel like he's a name that has routinely stood out for good or bad when it comes to Southeast Asian players. What do you make of the OG roster? Is this one going to work?
I mean, I feel like by the time we're discussing it, it's already gone. Like that's how I feel. Is this roster?
No, that was Secret.
Does it still exist?
Secret already had their roster that came and went.
I don't know if this OG roster, as we speak, still exists. Like, I'm gonna be honest.
It did fail.
They
2
got
qualifiers.
Fortnite man. They got Fortnite man hard, dude. Like, let's be real. Fortnite man just disbanded OG. Not every day you can say that, but I think he could say that because I don't know if this roster exists anymore in its current state. Like, that's a rough one, dude. That's a rough. You got Fortnite man. Hard to recover, bro. Hard to recover. I mean, it's a good meme. It's a good meme.
It is a good meme.
What do I think about this team? I mean, you know how I believe on C players in non-C teams. Number one, big red flag for me. It's a big red flag. Number one. I don't have to repeat that. If you've been listening to this show at all, do not have to repeat that point. Which I also hold a little bit against Lornoff on Tundra because he's been playing on a C team for a year. So he's like, he's gonna bring some of that back. So he's like a fourth seed.
So wait, if you move regions in your mind, you don't believe in the team that you move to, and when you move back, you don't believe in
it. Depends where you're going to and where you're coming from. That's all I'm saying. But let me tell you something. Lornoff playing on Aurora for like a year and a half. That boy's like a third seed at this point because of how he's been taught to play the game. So he's going to bring some of that back to Tundra. They're going to have to get rid of all that. So I'm holding that against them too. I'm objective. I'm fair. I do it to everyone evenly. I will hold my case there. But that's one red flag. C player in a non-C team. Dicey. Never worked out in the history of Dota. You got the multicultural teams. Another red flag for me, right? There's too many languages being spoken on this team, which I got nothing against. I've tried it, but like, it's fucking hard, man, because yeah, there's like a common language in Dota, but when everybody brings their own style of it because they grew up playing in different pub environments and different cultures and they communicate about the game differently, communicate in-game differently, you have to bridge all of that. It's hard. It's really hard. Doesn't mean you can't overcome it, but it's hard. So that's another one.
So you would say you also don't believe in the new Aurora, who has TA2000 playing carry?
No, I don't. Not at all.
TA2000, Abed, Jabs.
No. That is
Kaori.
I mean, somehow that team got even slower and even greedier. I'm not even going to touch it with a 20-foot MMR pole. Like, we all know what's happening there. It's going to be 70-minute games, some AFK farming action, another probably like top 8 at TI, another just like, darn it, and then just like they'll try and find the even greedier carry player, and then we'll go into next year. So, like, I have no faith. No, you can't play this slow and greedy. Like, you can't. I don't understand why people keep trying it. It's like, I'm going to farm on Naga for 60 minutes. And then Mickey Furion like is going higher on a 20. And you're like, what? Like, it's like surprise Pikachu face. Like, what? Like, well, I didn't know he could do that. And then it's like the next game is just literally like, yo, pick me Faceless Void, bro. Like, give me that Faceless Void, bro. I'm a time zone these motherfuckers at 60. And then it's like Visage. High ground at 22. It's like, I don't understand, dude. Like, why are some of these teams and players like this? I didn't understand this with China as well. Like, Zhao, you remember when Zhao just kept giving Quinn Huskar versus Ember? Just kept doing it. He did it like 3 or 4 times in a row. I don't understand this shit. Like, I'm waiting for an explanation. That's what it feels like to me. You just keep picking Ember and a Huskar. You just keep playing slow into these ball up, super fast laning European teams, and you get crushed the exact same way. And it's like, even if you manage to beat one, let's say you play out of your fucking mind. Like, you're in fucking mode zone, fucking Naruto, hype, anime, fucking full zone, just like, I'm operating on 10,000 bazillion MMR level. You go in this game, you fucking, not only did you do this game one, you do it 2 out of the 3 games. You're just hyper zone. All right. Just fucking in there and you demolish. Let's say you demolish Gaming Gladiators on land with this shit, right? Faceless Void, 22-0. Just like, they have no idea what the fuck is going on. They get beat so hard they start to question everything about the fabric of the game. Let's say you fucking do that. And then you go up a match in that upper bracket, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to do it again. then you have to do it against Liquid or Tundra or fucking whoever the hell is there. You're telling me you do that, you're going to be able to do that 4 times in a major land to win it.
Yeah, and do it in a best of 5 to win the whole tournament. Yeah.
There's no way, dude. There's
You can't
no
go Super
fucking
Saiyan
way.
for that long.
No, nobody can. It's not humanly possible. And if they do that, fucking drug test them. I will fully support the drug testing at that point. There's just no way, dude. No one can do that for like 4 days. You need a huge patch overhaul. That's what you would need. You're just gambling on some major patch overhaul. I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, maybe, but what was I even talking about? OG? I don't know. I just don't. This fit doesn't do it for me. I don't really get the player fit. I think it's way too all over the place. You got this French guy in there. You got an English dude. You got a South American offlaner. You got a C carry.
Okay, so
you got a German mid. It's like, what the fuck is going on here, dude? Like, I don't even. The German mid's like one of the best space maker but weirdo hero players of all time. The SA offlaner's like some super clutch player but can't speak to everybody. The C player is the most inconsistent carry player. He's literally been labeled Jackie Mao 2.0. It's like Seb's just giving his speeches or something and buying mech, and Ari's like a playmaker. He's probably the most normal. I don't know, dude. I don't know. Like, what is going on here? I don't even understand it. I kind of want to see them succeed just to like have my mind blown of like what is possible in team building. But I feel like it's some weird challenge mode.
Do you know the Counter-Strike talent Launders?
Yeah.
Okay, so Launders is a self-proclaimed racist in that when it comes to Counter-Strike, he believes in the teams that are all, you know, from the same country. Basically,
that's not racism, motherfucker.
Yes,
I mean, if he's racist, okay, but
it's funny to call it that, and so therefore he calls it that.
I mean, I wouldn't call it that. Okay, sure. I'm not calling it that. That is a terrible thing to call it. By the way, I'm just putting that out there.
I mean, I wouldn't advise you calling it that. But
yeah, I'm not. For the record, I'm not.
Just making that clear. But would you say you would ascribe to that philosophy? It sounds like where you want to have teams that are generally from the same region.
I hesitate to say yes because I feel like it's not for the same reasons that this guy's doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, he's a serious.
Well, okay, what are his reasons? Why does he prefer a unicultural team? Which are what?
Well, I mean, if you think about a Counter-Strike, it is certainly far more about the cohesiveness and unity of a team, right? Okay. They're way more operated off of momentum and energy. It's why they hype each other up all the time, why they do their fist bumps, right? Okay. Whereas Dota teams are even like colder and more analytical, right? So in that regard, fair. In that context, right, even more important perhaps for a team to be unified.
Okay, I'll give you the 3 reasons why unicultural teams are going to perform better on average in Dota 2. Okay, right here. Number 1, language barrier. Don't have to overcome it. All of your ideas get communicated more effectively, fluidly, and easily. Less frustration, less stress, better outcome. Number 2, gameplay. All on the same page because you grew up playing your pubs for 10 years in a specific region which had a certain style. You're already all on that style. You could say, well, what if we introduce other styles? You can learn something. Get a fucking coach from another region. That's his job. When you all play the same way, you punch the same way, you punch together. That's Seb 101. All right, boys. Number 3, all being from the same culture means you have all the same cultural norms. You're going to be living with these dudes for like a third or a half of the year. You're going to be in the same location, potentially on boot camp. You're going to be in the same practice rooms. You're going to be in the same hotel. You have to hang out with them. You have to like them. You have to get along. You have to not have an environment that causes stress, anxiety, and pressure to exude normally on a normal basis. You need to get rid of all that shit. Having all the same cultural norms, expressions, emotional availability, the ways you communicate, the way you can read another person and understand that this guy's pissed off or he's not, is just way better and smoother when you're all grew up in the same way and understand those same cultural expressions. It's just a statement. So those three things just make your team function so much better when you don't have to worry about them. And when you introduce variables, the more and more you introduce, it exponentially increases in difficulty because you have to overcome all these things and bridge all these gaps and fix all these things. And you don't even know sometimes where those things cause problems. Like I've been on teams where I say things to teammates from other where they grew up in different places, and you say something that's like a common phrase in your language, or that you think like you word something in a way that you think implies and conveys a certain meaning because that's how you understand it in the way that you use English. It could be someone else who speaks English, or in the way that you're trying to portray an idea, and it's totally different in their mind. And you don't realize that because you don't know how they're thinking about it. And in their mind, they get it because they're getting it on how they get it, not on how you get it. This has literally happened to me. And then like 2 months down the road, you get in an argument about like, why the fuck aren't we doing this? Because I said I wanted to do this. And the guy's like, yeah, I am doing that because that's what you told me to do. And it's like, what the fuck did you think I meant by this? And he thought I meant something completely different. Right? This shit happens.
Do you agree you're a racist then?
No, this has nothing to do with race. Okay? It has nothing to do with the quality of a person. It is simply making a team environment work the best you can. And you're trying to make it as easy for you to do that. Now, obviously you can change out a player here or there or two here or there and make these things work, because in Dota, player skill and style and all these things, it's not just 100% dependent on which region you grew up with, right? Like people play all kinds of different ways and they communicate different ways and they fit in better. In fact, there's some players that I think have fit in better and found more success in regions outside their own, way more on average, because that's just how they are, because people are different. So you have to read and judge all these things. So if you get a huge multicultural team and you read and judge all these things and you feel like it's going to fit and you understand how, power to you, man, because that can work. The greatest example I'll give, I think, is Resolution. I think Roman, and I've talked to him about this, is he always said that he felt, I don't know if this is 100% true, and it probably varied from team to team, but he said he sometimes felt way more comfortable and it was easier for him to work on some of the Western teams he played on, like the NA teams, the European ones, whatever, like the old VGJ, the OG he played on, like these kind of teams, than the CIS teams that he played on when he was younger. Just in terms of team environment and how people communicated, he felt like it just fit better for him. It was less toxic for him. It was less confrontational, whatever it was. And obviously, playstyle wise, he excelled outside of CIS, right? He found a lot of really big success and became a huge player. So like, that's the exception. I think there can be people like that, because not everybody's just like, oh, I'm a homogenous piece of my culture. But a lot of that stuff is like, it's ingrained in you, like especially the communication and cultural expression part. It's really hard to like get rid of that or learn another cultures without having gone and living there or getting used to those people over time. It takes a lot of time. Like if you go and live with a team in Malaysia for a year, okay, you're going to be good at it and you're going to understand these things and you're going to fit in a lot more. But like that day one's going to be tough, right?
Yeah.
But when you can do this with like from 5 different places, it's like some infinity gauntlet of fucking what the fuck is going on, you know? It's like you got to do that. It's not just like 1-to-1. It's not like we got a German dude with 4 French guys and it's like, okay, we just bridge that one thing and we're good. It's like you're bridging like a circuit board of like 30 connections. It's just like, what the fuck is going on, you know? It's like, what is the German guy going to say to the Malaysian guy, to the Chinese player, to the Russian player? It's just like, oh my God. Like if I was coaching that shit, I would be losing my mind, because I wouldn't even know. Like, I feel like I would be a therapist in 5 different languages.
So that is a good way to be able to segue to another player and team that have had similar experiences to what you're talking about. Tomato was well known for, started out in South America, Peruvian player, and he has repeatedly said that he felt like his personality and most importantly, work ethic, uh, he was able to do better on some of the other squads. So he did it in North American squad. He obviously was on OG. He got replaced now by 23 Savage, and now he's on Shopify Rebellion, which is a very multicultural lineup. Tomato is going to be playing one with Yopaj as the two, Mangekyo I don't know how to say his name exactly. Ukrainian player being the offlane. Hellscream going to be playing the 4. He is specifically on trial, whereas Mangekyo is apparently on the lineup. And then Skim is still going to be playing 5. So you've got 2 C players, 2 Eastern European players, and 1 South American player. I'm going to assume you do not believe in the Shopify lineup.
I mean, good luck, bros. Like, nothing against you, but good luck, my friends. I wish you the best. It's tough. It's tough.
And the initial outcome has not been great for them, as the recent Dream League qualifiers went on, and they lost to Nouns not once but twice. They lost in the upper bracket final, I believe, and then they lost in the grand finals. And this time it didn't even go to game 5, which it typically does between those two teams. So it is apparently gotten worse. And in the Bet Boom Dacha qualifier, they got beat out by Team Waska, which is the Kataro Dark Mago lineup. So that was an NASA qualifier, and they didn't even make it to finals to face Nouns. So not a great start for them.
No, it has not worked out in the short term. Their games have been pretty messy. I think their drafts were actually fine. I mean, at this point, the drafts are fairly figured out post TI. I think their drafts were fine. It's just the gameplay wasn't all on the same page, and a lot of there's just a lot of random feeds in those games. Honestly, just a lot of bad deaths, and it costs you. Some of the team fighting was pretty good. I can see it come together. It's an interesting mix of players. Can be super aggressive at times, but Yopaj still looks like a beast in a lot of the games. They got that going for him, but just did not come together when it needed to on the map. That was the biggest thing I noticed for that squad. So, yeah, good luck to them, man. I wish them the best.
And another squad that talking about work ethic, Devi Lama on Heroic, I believe he said that the reason that they were dominating the South American qualifiers so much was that he pointed to that they just had a better work ethic than the other South American teams. And as a result, they have stuck together for the most part. I think this is probably the last roster we'll talk about. They swapped out. K1 Hector is out and Parker is in. Parker, who has definitely been making a name for himself. I think this last year, he definitely shot up the rankings quite a bit as a carry. So obviously a great pickup. But, Hector is also a decent part of, I would say, the identity of Heroic. So,
yeah. I don't know if there's too much to say on that. I think Parker's a explosive player. He has a history of his pub shenanigans and his toxicity and whatever. But ultimately, at this point in Dota, if you're a team that isn't like some tier 1 team and you're trying to get there, you have to take risks and you have to go for the highest potential you can. And I think that's the kind of player Parker is. Like, this is a guy who could pan out to be the best carry in the world. I would relate it to that year where Pakaz really broke out and they were going to that TI, and there was like decent talk of, is this guy the best carry in the world right now, right? That's the level you have to get at to be kind of a breakout player in a region that's underdeveloped and has a lot of disadvantages. So does Parker have that capability? Yeah, I think he does. This guy's an absolute beast. Like he just plays without fear. He's absolutely insane. He's maybe the biggest psychopath player I've ever seen in my life. Like the shit he does is absurd. But if you can play like that in a LAN environment, it's good. Now that's a big question. Can you? Because a lot of times those kind of players can't keep that up in like a LAN environment. You either get nerves or you choke or it's too inconsistent or whatever. But if you can, that is a player you can build around and can win you some series and games and you can go far. Like it's a scary player.
Yeah. Did we talk about Nigma last week? I can't
No.
remember. We did not. Okay.
No, because I did not shit on them at all. So I would have remembered that.
It's true. You would have remembered the angry messages you would have gotten from Enigma Galaxy fans. Yeah. So, well, I guess we'll wrap up on them. The most hype roster of all,
Miracle.
perhaps of all time. Miracle, Sumail, Noob, Omar, GH.
Kuro is out.
Kuro is
By
still tied
God.
to the roster.
He's gone. They murdered him.
But
They took him to the shed and they murdered him.
They haven't announced him being a coach. He obviously
He's
is
dead,
a part
Austin.
He's
dead.
It's
He's
his
never
organization.
coming back.
So he will always be tied to this org.
Tied to
in
the
some
shed
way.
out back. That's right. What? I mean, it is insane. I have never known a year without Kuroki competing.
Yeah. I mean,
don't think
he's
a
been
lot of
competing
Dota-
before Dota 2.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't think a lot of Dota people can say they do, right? This guy goes back forever. He is one of the staples of the scene, one of the most historic captains, one of the best performing players of all time. It is a monumental shift in the scene and for the org, even if maybe it's not like going from his best moment to nothing. It was a long decline. That is the truth. And people should pay their respects to the player and captain that Kuro was and what he's done for the game. Was this the correct decision? It kind of feels like it. I think he should still be involved with the team and the org for sure. His ideas could still be super valuable, even if his gameplay was a little lacking compared to modern fives, which I think it was. New roster though, I think it's pretty good on paper, honestly. I kind of like it, but will they get to lands? It's like,
well,
I don't know.
they are guaranteed some lands.
I know.
Because
but
anytime there is a MENA qualifier, they have dismantled PSG Quest by picking up
Smart move.
Noob and Omar, right?
That's a
So
smart move.
now, as there has already been a qualifier for Dream League, there was no competition.
I mean, if you
regard.
can't
In
beat
fact,
him
there
from
was
the
almost quite
outside,
literally no competition, as I believe like 6 teams were
yeah,
disqualified.
there's a lot of different. Well, so they'll get to play a Dream League. I mean, first off, you got to get rid of your illusions. Like, this roster is not just going to be like, if it works, they're just winning lands, like, because they have Miracle and Sumail. Like, that's not how it works anymore. It's not even fucking close. This is a team that's going to have to build up a lot, get a lot of shit going, work really hard, and be very disciplined. And is all of that going to happen? Super big question mark with those guys because they've been around for a long time. They have a lot of baggage. They have a lot of stress and pressure and old expectations of being champions that they have to earn back. It's just not easy. Are they still good players? Absolutely. But are they the best players in the world right now? No. That's just the truth. So you can't just rely on raw skill. And where are those other elements going to come from in this roster? I don't know. It's a bit tricky. I mean, Noob's going to have to obviously step up and fill an off-lane role that he hasn't played before as much and that is in very high demand right now. And the teams that have really good off-laners tend to do really well and just shit on the ones who don't. So if you can't get there, it's just like, it's going to be a tough one, you know? It's going to be a tough one. So they have a lot of work to do. That's how I put it. Like, they have work. Can they do the work and get better and start to grind their way up? Yes. But that's work, man. There ain't no way around it. You're going to have to start putting it in.
And they obviously already qualified through the MENA qualifier, but they also did pretty well, though they did not qualify. They played in the Betboom Dacha Western European qualifier, and they beat Avulis, who that is Stormstormer's team. They were apparently scrimming with Liquid at TI and did pretty well for themselves. They beat OG in the upper bracket final in order to get to the grand final. But once they got to the grand final, Mouse made a lower bracket run all the way through and ended up beating them 3-1 in quite fast games too. Like the initial game that was won by Nigma, 43 minutes. Mao's then took 33, 25, and 35-minute victories, just back to back to back to back. So they kind of ran over them. So maybe they still need to adjust speed wise, tempo wise to what Western Europe is what's most successful for the region and internationally as well. Big
like,
surprise.
Yeah, I mean, what at this point, if you're building a team, that's literally what you should be building it to do. Play fucking fast and be able to beat the European teams, because otherwise it's all meaningless anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that there is other rosters to talk about, but we have spent an hour talking about the rosters, some of the biggest rosters that have been announced this year. We did not talk about any of China. There is still, while I think some of the rosters are known, they haven't necessarily been confirmed. And so we'll probably save them for next week, and any other rosters that you guys want us to be able to talk about at home. If there's a roster that we missed and you really want to hear our opinion on it, let us know in the comments below. Other than that, we will get those questions and answers next week. I'm going to call the episode here. Thank you for watching another episode of Not for Broadcast. We'll see you guys next week.